I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use this video, but as many of you know, I have been really wrestling with the theological overreach in some areas of conservative Christianity. And the people that we should be serving and caring for, unfortunately, sometimes we're not always serving and caring for them because we're too busy shoving what we feel is proper society onto people. I know over the last few weeks, if you listen to many of the podcasts that are a part of Transcendent Media, you have heard my frustrations over the theological grip that is the conservative theological grip that has taken a hold of the area school board that's near our worship center, and it's quite a bit frustrating to me. The conversation I want to have with you is monsters don't appear out of nowhere. Monsters take time to grow. They take time to get their roots in the ground and roots into the soil, and these overwhelming monsters that we deal with in the now started somewhere, and we were aware of their beginnings, but because that they weren't handled properly within their beginnings, now they have become this out of control rooted conundrum that we really don't know what to do with. Now, I've shared that about the area school board, in which that I go to and speak out at times, and I have been in some unique conversations with different members of the school board, and I look at the outreach, the overreach that a local conservative church has within the political structure of our town, and it worries me. But this didn't happen overnight. I want to share with you a series of conversations with Frank Zappa. Now, back in the Reagan era of politics, Frank Zappa really started to speak back against the political overreach of churches. How that we began to see because of the Pat Robertsons, because of the Jerry Falwells, because of the Jim Bakkers, these individuals, that religion started to creep into politics in such a way that it began to become sort of this divisive element in its starting movements that is really gotten out of control in the day. I think very frequently about the relationship held between Billy Graham and Ronald Reagan, and it was this rooted, politicized religion that started to overrun things in such a way that certain things that we really should have been taken care of, that could have found a more expedient course of care, spun out of control because we didn't talk about some things, because it didn't mesh into our religious principles. So I'm going to play this first clip for you. It's from Crossfire. This episode was recorded. It was still during the Reagan era of politics. And within this video clip, Frank really just starts to lay out, hey, this is what's happening. This is how religion is starting to dig into these things. And, you know, we really need to be aware and to be focused on this, because this is somewhere between 86 and 88, this video. And Frank is laying out this warning that we are actually completely dealing with right now, because nobody listened to Frank Zappa. So we're gonna play this clip. This is from Crossfire, and this is Frank kind of warning against how that what will get us as a society is when we allow religion to have too much power. So here's Frank.
Number of purposes. I'm not going to give you a civics lesson here, but I'll tell you one thing. We must not see eye to eye on the idea of a government that must forbid things in order to protect
Really? What is the
families.
government's role? You've told me several times what it shouldn't do.
How about national defense?
Yeah, I consider this national defense, pal. Our families are under attack from people like you with these lyrics.
John, you don't have to buy them.
Mr. Zappa, could I make a statement about national defense?
Yeah.
The biggest threat to America today is not communism. It's moving America toward a fascist theocracy. And everything that's happened during the Reagan administration is steering us right down that pipe.
Oh, Mr. Zappa, do you really think? I mean, all kidding aside, in this country, with the permissiveness that we are moving toward a fascist theocracy, anything goes.
We are, but
do you think things like this would have ever been permitted?
Smile again.
When we were 20, when we were kids, you're about my age, maybe a little younger.
45.
Well, I'm 55. Do you think when I was a kid that they would permit songs like that to be sold? I mean, permissiveness is the game. I mean, exactly. You're not really serious if you're saying we're going toward a fascist theocracy.
That's right, we are.
Wait a minute.
In what way? Give me one example.
Wait. One example of a fascist theocracy.
When you have a government that prefers a certain moral code derived from a certain religion, and that moral code turns into legislation to suit one certain religious point of view, and if that code happens to be very, very right-wing, almost toward Attila the Hun...
Well, then you are an anarchist. Every form of civil government is based on some kind of morality, Frank.
Morality in terms of behavior, not in terms of theology.
Well, of course, but look, I mean...
So there's Frank laying out what we're watching happen right now. Now, many of you know that I am a pastor. I am a pastor in the United Methodist Church. Many of you know me as a pastor that goes out and really gets involved in some highly political things. I go out and I speak at school board meetings. I have spoken at city council meetings. I have been involved in different No King protests. And one of the things that I really think about as I hear Frank lay out these warnings in these video clips is this reality that, you know, there are those that have allowed religion to step out and become this unruly beast that it was never meant to be. I mean, even Christ himself always spoke against political power and didn't try to attain it. Christ even spoke against and was actively stood against the religious Pharisees that really are visibly getting their grip into American culture right now through politicized Christianity, that Frank was speaking against this. And Frank was, in his language, is talking about how that would be constructive to the narrative that we know as our American reality. But, you know, a little bit for me, I want to talk about how it's hurt the church. I am trying to be the counter voice of what's happened over the last many years, starting out with what Frank is talking about against Reagan in the 80s, all the way to what we have now is this Trumpian nationalistic religion that is really out to hurt people and really out to extract power within itself. You know, Christ talked about that frequently within his conversations. There becomes, you know, Christ who has the power, and they show this coin that's of Caesar. Does Caesar have power? And Christ literally says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and render unto God what is God's. Because, and when I think about that, it's not this separation of church and state, but it is this. There is a place that politics can be healthy as long as it's taking care of the culture that it's supposed to be serving. And Christianity is not something that's supposed to be trying to extract political power or even financial power, but it's something that came within Christ's image to turn over the tables and help those to help the least of these, the marginalized, find their places of comfort and care. So
until you start putting the money back into the school system, pay the teachers what they're really worth, and this should happen all over the country because they just haven't spent the money to encourage people to learn and to make it okay to be smart. It hasn't been okay to be smart in the United States for centuries. Unless somebody in the media says, you know what, if we made it look like it was okay to have brains and still be an American, and that was an ideal thing to do, then maybe kids would be interested in learning. But instead of that, what they've done is they've made the schools poor, they've made them weak, they've paid the teachers a substandard salary, which means that the good ones took off and went to do something else because, who wants to put up with that kind of abuse, and who loses?
So I did not credit this part when I switched over, and actually I still can't credit this part, but one of the other things that we start to see as we're trying to be caregivers is, one of the things that starts to be pulled away is the opportunity to learn, to grow, to see things through new sets of eyes, and Frank addresses that in this previous clip. It's this whole idea of that we kind of live in this culture that it's not okay to be smart anymore, and I really see that deeply rooted in everything that we're doing right now. We have a current administration that's cracking down against colleges. We have a current administration that is cracking down on what kids can and cannot learn in school. That one of the reasons that I go to all of the school board meetings is this fight against limited, not just limited resources, but limited allowance of what can be taught about. Because if we don't talk about our entire history, then we are doomed to repeat it. And many of us are saying that, wow, we are already repeating a great deal of our history right now. If you don't talk about history within its full consequences, we don't talk about the Civil War in such a way that we forget the disenfranchised individuals that a large portion of this war was fought about. Many of my Southern siblings will remind me that this was a war about states' rights. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but when you're also fighting for the state's right to own another human being, and that is starting to get swept away again. We're not talking about the complete and total narrative of who is being harmed within it, so much that we are starting to eradicate the individuals and not talk about the individuals that actually went out to have a positive effect in the rebuilding of culture after those moments. And I literally sit here in a moment that the removal of Martin Luther King Day is literally something that's being discussed. And why remove the narrative or celebration of an individual that worked so hard for the unity within things, and if you're not trying to eradicate what that individual fought so hard to repair, as we look at the fight that Dr. King had, so that individuals were not marginalized to the extent that they were unallowed to have the same opportunities as another person just because of the complexion of their skin. but we are working, we're looking at a time that's being worked away. We're looking at a time that complete history is not being allowed to be taught. We have kids. I didn't know who Marsha P. Johnson was until that I started doing my own self-research over LGBTQIA plus issues. I was not taught about Harvey Milk in high school, predominant LGBTQIA plus politician who became the first voice for his journey within the realm of politics. I can tell you anything about Stonewall Jackson or Jeb Stuart or Robert E. Lee that you want to. That was the history that I was taught, and unless that we're taught the entire history, then we're forced to repeat it in such a way that it once again becomes harmful for others. So I really respect Frank's statements within this last video, because the more that I see the restrictions over different books that people are allowed to read or not to read, like literally taking these books out of public libraries, what we are allowed to read or not read. It is the controlling of a narrative in such a way that the victor is rewriting history, and we are literally doomed just due to our lack of knowledge of recreating a lot of the hurt that a lot of really good people worked very hard to step us away from. All the way through restructuring the narrative of Rosa Parks, all the way through the conversations right now of removing Martin Luther King Day. We're not allowed to know things anymore because knowledge is power. And throughout every generation of individuals trying to maintain power, they tried to restrict knowledge. So we're going to look at one more Frank Zappa quote, and then we'll process this to a conclusion.
When a country is ruled by a religious sect, no matter what you think about religion, I think, my opinion, is that religion belongs in the church and government belongs where government does work, and you don't mix the two of them up. Government is something that's supposed to be practical, and it is supposed to manage the everyday affairs of the people who rely on law and order, running water, garbage pickup, gas and electric, organized, civilized business. That's what government is supposed to do. Not deal with morality, not deal with matters pertaining to religion. You want to worship something, do it in your own heart, in your home, or in a church. If you must, do it over a television set. That would always be the last resort.
So this last video clip is very much like the first. And this really has been something that has been bothering me. And I wanted to take these Frank Zappa quotes for you to show you this really isn't something that's new within our cultural divide. This is something that we have been fighting against for a very, very long time. And with Frank's outspokenness about this, I wanted to show you. These videos that I've showed you are almost 40 years old. So this is not a brand new thing. There's always been this place that we have been fighting against this overreach of what it means to be individuals of faith, but also being a self-supportive culture. Now, I know many of you want to say, and you'll probably email me at dwopodcasting@gmail.com and say, hey, you're a pastor, you're doing these speeches at City Hall, you're doing these speeches at school board meetings. Aren't you a little bit hypocritical talking about this? And you know what? God bless. I think Frank Zappa would agree with you. But one of the things that I really see within myself is the necessity of making sure that within these places, when people see the harmful overreach of what some religious sects are trying to do, there are other religious sects that are trying to be supportive, caring, and active in such a way that they want to help deconstruct the harm that's been created and open the doors for care and support in such a way that people can live within the comfort of their identity and not have this governmentally imposed faith. And that's what I'm really seeing right now. And admittedly, before I make this next statement, yes, I read a lot of liberal propaganda in my news. I do try to hear both sides of the spectrum as I listen to the news. I listen to different conservative and liberal podcasts as I'm dealing with my news intake. So, but rightfully so, every statement is flavored within the opinion of the one that makes it. So I know that as I say this, you know, the more that I hear that the possibility of being able to say that someone is being bullied because of their religious rights, because they're not allowed to speak harshly towards transgender people, that makes me really mad. When I hear people talk about that it is an infringement on religious rights when they don't want to make a cake for an LGBTQ focused wedding, that makes me really mad, because religion isn't about extracting power and making everything like you are. What religion really is, and what religion has always been, is this quest of helping individuals find their place at the table of grace so that they can grow within that grace. Well, thank you for listening to these video clips today. Thank you for pondering with me these conversations. Just peace be with you all as we all try to live in this world together. And as sometimes religion oversteps itself, hopefully the religious will also speak out to create peace.